On Christmas Eve, 1945, a family went to sleep in their home in the United States. And by morning, 5 children had vanished. No bodies were ever found. No remains. No explanation. This is not a legend. This is not a rumor. This is a real American cold case that police still can't explain. What happened that night would haunt investigators for decades and leave behind a mystery that refuses to disappear. This is one of the most chilling cold cases in American history. A cold case police still can't explain. The disappearance of the Sodder children. On Christmas Eve, 1945, in a small town in West Virginia, a fire broke out in the middle of the night. By morning, 5 children were gone. No bodies were found. No remains were recovered. And more than 75 years later, police still cannot explain what happened. The Sodder family lived just outside the town of Fayetteville. They were well known in the community. Hardworking, close-knit. A large family with 10 children and strong routines. Christmas Eve had been joyful. The children stayed up later than usual, playing with new toys and laughing. Their parents eventually told them to go to bed, planning to clean up before sleeping themselves. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt wrong. At around 1 a.m., the mother woke up suddenly. She smelled smoke. When she looked outside the bedroom, she saw flames rising from the downstairs office. She screamed for her children. 2 of them ran out safely. But 5 children never came out. The fire spread quickly. The stairs were already burning. The roof began to collapse. The parents tried desperately to reach the children, but the flames were too strong. In the chaos of the fire, the father ran outside searching for a ladder. It was always kept beside the house. He had used it many times before. That night, it was gone. They tried to use their truck to climb closer to the window. The truck wouldn't start. When the parents tried to call for help, the phone line was dead. At first, it was blamed on the fire. But later examination revealed something disturbing. The phone line had been cut. Not burned. Not damaged by heat. Cut cleanly. That meant someone had interfered. Before the fire ever began, the fire spread quickly. Within minutes, the house was destroyed. By daylight, firefighters searched the ashes. They expected to find remains. They found none. Not a single bone. Not even fragments. Which immediately raised a disturbing question. If 5 children died in that fire, where were their bodies? Fire officials claimed the fire burned hot enough to completely destroy everything. But experts later said that explanation didn't make sense. Other fires had burned longer and hotter, and bones were always found. Always. The parents refused to believe their children died in the fire. And as time passed, more strange details surfaced. Neighbors reported seeing a man watching the house earlier that evening. One claimed to have seen a man throwing something onto the roof earlier that night. Another witness claimed they saw children being rushed into a car during the fire. Someone else said they saw lights moving on the road shortly after the flames started. None of this appeared in the official report. Then there were the threats. Months before the fire, the father had argued publicly with someone over political beliefs. He had been warned his house could be destroyed. At the time, he brushed it off. After the fire, it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. The family began their own investigation. They found that the ladder hadn't disappeared. It had been moved far from the house. The phone line had been cut. And the truck? It had worked perfectly the day before. Years later, something even more unsettling happened. The mother received a photograph in the mail. It showed a young man. On the back were words suggesting he might be one of the missing children, grown up. There was no return address. Police couldn't trace it. The family followed every lead. They traveled across states. They spoke to private investigators. They spent their savings searching for answers. Still, nothing. Experts revisited the fire scene years later and found bone fragments buried in the soil. But forensic testing revealed they didn't belong to children. They belonged to an adult. That discovery only deepened the mystery. If the children weren't in the fire, where did they go? Some investigators believe the children were kidnapped. Others believe the fire was staged. But no arrests were ever made. No suspects were charged. And no official explanation has ever fully made sense. The parents never gave up. They kept a billboard near the property for decades, showing the faces of their missing children, their names, their ages. They wanted the world to remember. They wanted answers. The billboard stood there for years, weathered by time, but never forgotten. Cold cases usually fade because evidence disappears. This one never did. The evidence exists, but it contradicts itself. A fire that left no remains. A ladder that moved on its own. A phone line cut before flames spread. Each detail raises more questions than answers. The details alone cause some investigators to privately question the official conclusion. Today, the case remains open. No remains, no confirmed sightings, no final truth. Just questions. What really happened on Christmas Eve, 1945? How did 5 children disappear during a house fire without leaving a trace? And why, after all these years, does this case still refuse to rest? Police agree on one thing. This was not a normal fire. And someone, somewhere, knows exactly what happened that night.